You might have noticed over the last couple of months, Motogp 22 has drastically not been on the channel. There's the occasional video where I jump back on, kind of moan about how bad the game is, and then it goes another 6 weeks without me touching it. Rinse and repeat, we come back, I don't enjoy it, I give out about it, and that is that. Now recently I uninstalled the game. I made a career mode video where I lost the plot with it. I couldn't handle just the ultra rubbish game that it was. Made a point about it, I uninstalled it, and that was that. I was finished with it. And up until that video, I was pretty sure in my own self that I would buy Motogp 23, and that maybe it mightn't be as good as I'd hope. Hopefully it'd be a step forward, I was thinking, and then I'd go along, I'd make my content as always, and that would be that. Now, after that video, in my own head, I kind of was thinking, I'm not doing this again. I'm not paying 60 quid again for Motogp 23 just to hate it and to churn out some content for the sake of, oh, it's a new game, I'll do that. It really wasn't appetizing me for my terms of YouTube now. With YouTube, it's primarily a hobby. I don't use it as anything else other than just a bit of fun and a bit of a side hobby. So when GP22 went so drastically backwards in terms of enjoyability, it really kind of put my channel off. I just didn't really like making content on it. I felt like the content was poor. The physics of the game really made it hard for me to enjoy it, and I think that was coming through the videos. So it got to the point where GP23 was completely off the table. I was kind of pretty sure at that point I wasn't going to get it, until the other night when I was talking with a friend of mine while playing GP Bikes. And we were talking why the games have gone downhill and what's so bad about them, and the Superbike game and stuff like that. And it came to me out of nowhere that I started to think about, why is it that they've been so neglective of the current games, and why are they gone so bad? Why are they so underloved? And then I was starting to think, what is if they're using their powers elsewhere now? Where this is all going is Unreal Engine 5. Recently, about a year ago, I'm going to guess at, I can't actually find the article, it was confirmed that Milestone, along with another 30 or 40 developers, would move from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5, and that would bring an increased performance and level of graphics to the game we haven't seen in such time yet. Now, I have attached a explanation, a blog you could say, in the description below about the Unreal Engine 5 features, what it does well, what it will see for the gamer side, not the actual developer coding side. And if you want to read up on that, it's a bit more in-depth than I'll cover in today's video, but it is a good aspect to understand more of what we could see. Now, in the long and short of what the Unreal Engine 5 could and should bring to Motogp 23 is overall better graphically, especially the lighting. It looks like from reading that blog that the lighting will be better, but also less heavy on the hardware. So whether they can actually get the most out of this is the question, though, because to a lot of people they're not maxing out the Unreal Engine 4 at the moment. So we kind of both had in agreement, he's a bit more techie than I am, that it'd be essentially having a sports car on road tires. You have all the potential there, but you're limited by your tires, and you're only still going kind of road legal speeds. Or you could even say having like a GB bike for the road, you can only go your 60 miles an hour. So it's having all that potential, but still not using any of it, not getting much more out of it. So even though potentially they could bring GP23 out on Unreal Engine 5, it doesn't guarantee that it's going to be a massive step forward in graphics, 2, anyway better in physics, or 3, a more complete game than we've had the last couple of years. Now, to me, that might explain their last few below par games. If they've been trying to port over since this was announced, was during the 22 life cycle from my memory, that would mean that they probably would have started about a year before that, because this stuff, when it gets announced, it's not like, oh, we're going to Unreal Engine 5 or starting today. It's going to be in the works for months with the companies that before it gets announced. So you could probably say since GP21, because I look back when they went to the Unreal Engine 4, back from their in-house development engine back in, it was from GP17 to GP18. GP18 was a step forward. Now, graphically, it was one of my favourite games. I've actually gone back and watched it. I will insert a clip in somewhere in along this little monologue about GP18. But the overall density of the off-track graphics was something they haven't reached yet, in my opinion. They haven't gone back that good yet. Every track felt more alive than the current ones. There was more trees. Now, again, no, this is a racing game. I am aware of what I'm saying here. But the fact is, it just felt like the environment was more alive. There was smoke in the crowds. There was the flares going off. And all that was kind of playing into it. And it was really... it felt good for the game. Now, but the physics were shocking. And the actual graphics themselves, as the game went on, they were a bit kind of grainy and a weird colouring. And it was slightly dark. But it was a big step forward overall from 17 to 18. 18 onwards, it seems like the physics got better up until GP21. The graphics kind of made a step from 18 to 19. 19 through to 22, you're kind of clutching the straws. They're slightly different. They've brought in some things like in GP22, the clouds move and they cast shadows on the track. It's a nice feature. I remember saying it in my initial thoughts of the game that I actually really liked it because it felt like it was a more living environment again. And that was kind of, there's bits and pieces throughout the years, but nothing that you would hold your hand and go, gee, that was a brilliant step that year. Mainly they focused on, essentially it was just the physics. Each year would get changed. You get all the new skins eventually. You wouldn't get it day one. And you'll get some sort of new physics that they eventually start to patch and dull down. Now, I've played so little of GP22, I don't even know this year if they've dulled the physics back at all, because I've only about 80 hours on it, whereas I think I'd like 360, 370 on GP21, and that is even with GP bikes coming out Christmas over a year ago, so a lot of my time when that came out was on that, so I lost a bit of GP21 time on that. So even at that, that's like 4 or 5 times the amount of hours on 21 versus 22. So it really blows out the water how much I enjoy 21 to 22. Is it enough if we got it on Unreal Engine 5 to be a good game? No, because like I go back to the analogy of having a sports bike with road tires or whatever you want to kind of get the analogy from. You can have all the potential in the world. If you're not actually using it, you could pretty much wasting your time. Now, I always look as well at Milestone. They have so many games on the go. They recently, just over the last couple of days, a lot of YouTubers got access to early alpha gameplay of Monster Energy Supercross 6. So that's 6 games in a row they brought out, 6 yearly releases, annual releases. There's also the MXGP franchise, there is the Ride franchise, there's the Motogp franchise. They have a couple of different ones, like I think there's a Hot Wheels game. They brought out a rally game once. That was like their own EP that never has seen the light of day since. And of course they have GP and stuff like that. Now, every year, nearly all the games I just mentioned, bar Ride, come out in September, February, April, whatever the month is. Year on year they come out. That really limits a small developer to make big changes. If you look at a lot of games, there's a reason Call of Duty went from developers every 3 years to make a game different. You were getting games every year that were slightly different lighting, maybe a different kind of colour palette, and tweaking small aspects. And unfortunately that's where we're at with the MotoGP games at the moment. They're making small physics changes, they're making slight graphic changes, the game modes are getting new menus, new UI, that's about it. We're getting the updated skins eventually. I want to point out that most of them don't come at launch, not even the GP class. And we're getting lots of bugs. And that really for me is down to the fact that they're cramming a lot of work into not a lot of time. And again, you can always go back to especially the Monster Energy, the MXGP and the MotoGP, that the fact they're real life series, they will be held up by Dorna to make sure that they're released on a certain time. They won't be just left out any time of the year. They'll be told this has to be out when and then, and that will be it. There'll be no arguing. So I do feel like GP has been held back a few years for that, as they come out extra early, as they used to come out in July, I believe. Now it's April, so that's again development time that they're not getting back. So I'm going to leave it there. I want your opinions in the description. Do you reckon that it's potentially we could see an Unreal Engine 5 MotoGP 23? Do you reckon if it makes it to the new engine, is it going to be any better? Now, again, we can always talk about bringing the engine. If they don't utilise it better than they have with the Unreal Engine 4, it's going to be the same game on a new engine. It might look slightly different. But it's interesting to think about what actually could happen if they really knuckle down and got a game together, because the last few games have been poor. Majority of the community don't like it, but the community I want to be let know in the comments what you think, if it is going to be something that is an improvement. Do you think it's going to make it better, worse? No opinion on it. And what are your just overall opinions on what we're going to see in MotoGP 23? Right, I'm going to leave there. Hope you have enjoyed today's video. I shall catch you in the future for another one. Thanks for watching. See you soon.